Hello, everyone. This is the Parks Academy, where we discuss and celebrate all things theme parks related. We focus mainly on Disney parks and resorts in both Anaheim and Orlando. My name is Paige.
My name is Steven.
And today we will be discussing ways to save money on your Disney vacation.
This is going to be a fun one because we have had, I think I say this is going to be a fun one about all of them, but I mean this about this one.
They're all fun.
We have, like so many of you probably, gotten home from our Disney vacation and looked at our credit card bill and said, what have we done?
Many times.
Yeah, and this is like after we have booked the trip, booked our airfare, paid for it. And this is just like when we're in the gates of the park, we will sometimes look back and be like, oh no.
Whoops.
Oh no. So
we've hooked our credit card up to our Magic Band. We're swiping left and right without even thinking about it.
Yeah, that's like the first unofficial tip, is that even though money's not technically real, it's just a bunch of numbers on a machine at this point. It's still super real, and foreclosures on your home is also real. So we're going to talk about 10 ways to save money on your Disney vacation. So we're going to start off with the first one, and this is Paige's brilliant idea that she had years ago, so she'll start. And this is going to be pay for your entire trip, like when you're in the parks, pay for everything on gift cards.
And this is not talking about your hotels and your transportation. This is like anything that you would pay for in the parks, snacks, meals, souvenirs, all of that nonsense. Buy gift cards up front so you are giving yourself a budget ahead of time. And so I don't even remember what made me think about doing this. I was in Target one day and I said, why don't we get some gift cards? We'll use our Target Red card, get our 5% off, and we'll buy some Disney gift cards so that way we don't spend more than we're planning to spend on our trip.
Yeah. There was a couple of caveats in that for me, because the first time we did it was my first time going to Galaxy's Edge. And I essentially told you, like, I will not be held down by the constraints of these gift cards. So I had a couple of exceptions where I was able to, like for instance, when I went to Savi's, like that was a separate thing.
Right.
But everything else, it's like, yeah, you want those extra kyber crystals, you better pick the colors you really want and not go searching for that black kyber crystal and buy 20 red ones because you are on a budget. And then it's helpful. It's like carrying cash in your wallet, kind of.
Right.
Where you know that you have a finite amount of money that you can actually spend, and once it's gone, it's gone.
Exactly.
And keep in mind, like, this doesn't have to be super rigid. Like, if you see something that you really want and you're like, I can swing this, that's okay if you do something, but this is more, I think, of a way to just keep yourself a little honest while you're there and to have a better idea of what you're spending. And also you've paid for it ahead of time, so you're not going to get that sticker shock when you go home and get your statement and or go online and see that you have completely maxed out 5 credit cards.
Exactly. So just to give an example of how you could do this, you can do this in several different ways. We want you to maximize your productivity, your financial situation. But for us, when it was just the two of us before we had kids, the way that we would work this out is we would each get a gift card for souvenirs. And so we would each have $100 to spend. We could use that on whatever we wanted. Steven could get his kyber crystals and, a t-shirt and whatever, a pin. And I would get, a lounge fly, and that's it, because that would take up my whole gift card. But whatever you want to spend your $100 on, you each have a $100 souvenir gift card. Then we would each have a $100 snack gift card. And so if each day I wanted to get myself a coffee in the morning and then some sort of ice cream or treat in the afternoon, or if I wanted to get my Jack Jack Cookie Num Num. So we would each have $100 for souvenirs and $100 for snacks. And then we would sit down and we would plan out all of our meals ahead of time for our sit down restaurant for our dining options. And because we booked those in advance, we pretty much knew an idea of how much we were going to be spending. So if we had one fancy dinner planned and then 2 or 3 sit down restaurants where we knew we could keep it cheap and skip out on the appetizers and desserts, then we would be able to kind of figure out how much are we probably going to spend. So the first time I think we got a $200 restaurant gift card that we ended up using. And so for lunches, we always do QSR or quick service, so we can keep that as cheap as we want. And then for dinners, we usually skipped out on, the appetizers and desserts because we would use our snack gift card throughout the day. And then maybe we would get alcohol 1 or 2 nights that we were there. We weren't doing that every single dinner because we were really trying to stay within our food budget. So to summarize, we'd each have a $100 souvenir gift card, a $100 snack gift card, and then we would budget our meals and figure out how much we thought we'd spend. And so you can kind of use that however you want. You could get your kids each a gift card that they could use, $100 for snacks and souvenirs, or however much you want to budget for them to spend. But I feel like this is a good idea too, because it's also teaching them kind of some responsibility and saying, this is your gift card, we'll hold on to it, but you have this amount that you can spend. So you have to be smart, and you can't just buy every t-shirt that you like and every set of ears you like and every stuffed animal that you like. And so it kind of helps to give your kids an expectation, and hopefully they don't throw a temper tantrum when they see something and they really want it, because you can just say, oh, this is how much you have left if you really want this. So hopefully that's a helpful tip for families, but also for couples or even single folks who want to go to the park and try to keep themselves into this budget.
Yeah, it's definitely definitely a great way to do it. It could be frustrating at times because it's like, I'm a grown up and I can spend how much money I want at the parks, but that's like for life. You got to be on a budget. Even if you have all the money in the world, you should still be on a budget, So it's important for sure. And I think that's a good tip. The second one that we think is a great way to save money in your Disney parks vacation is to have groceries delivered to your room. And to also, if you can, if it's within the budget, of course, book a hotel that has some kind of a kitchenette. So then that way you can have breakfast at home. You can, or at your hotel, I guess, and just prepare a few meals there. Have a fridge stocked up with things you need, snacks on the go, whatever. If you have to take the kids back to relax, maybe take a nap or swim for a little bit just to chill. It's nice to have groceries there, in a little kitchenette. So then that way you can put together sandwiches. If you want to, have just little pre-made things, or I don't know, but the point is it's a great way to save a little bit of money and to not be weighed down by having to fork out $5-6 here and there for a snack or something like that for your kids while you're at the parks.
Well, right, because if you buy a loaf of bread and some peanut butter and jelly or some lunch meat, you're feeding potentially your whole family for several days of your trip. Whereas even going to a quick service in any of the parks, you're going to spend at least, $25 or something by the time you get drinks and a bag of chips or something on the side. And so if you're really trying to be cost effective for several people, even if you only do 1 or 2 lunches back at your hotel for a family of 4, that's really going to save you a ton of money in the long run. And so trying to think smart about, if you're not a breakfast family, maybe you just get some breakfast bars or some cereal and milk to kind of hold you off so that you won't have to eat again until lunch, instead of your kids getting hungry at 9:30 or 10 when you've been in the parks already for an hour or so. So just trying to be as smart as possible about saving money up front on food. That's a big way to save when you're in the parks, instead of just impulse buying because you're really hungry and you've been walking around so much.
Yeah, so that's pretty straightforward on that one. We don't do that one a lot right now, just because we know we know our stomachs pretty well. But with our daughter coming up, we're probably going to have to start implementing a little bit more of that because we're going to have to be a little bit more prepared, especially going back for naps and things like that.
Right. We'll have to go back to the hotel more during the day, where we usually don't do that unless we're planning a half day in the park and a half day back at the hotel to swim or something.
Yeah. So the next one, tip number 3 for ways to save money when you're at a Disney park is one of my favorites. And I could totally spend an entire show just talking about this, but we will keep it condensed and talk about having an off day at the park. Or, excuse me, having an off day at the property. So you're at the parks, right. Yeah, and you're there hanging out, but you're not actually going through a gate. So this was maybe if you're staying for 5 days and you've got 4 days of ticket passes, maybe this is Wednesday or sometime in the middle, and you just do not go through gates that day, and you have an off day. And we definitely have a couple of tips and tricks that'll make it a lot of fun, and ways too that we can you can keep it pretty affordable. Do you want to give a couple of your suggestions for that?
Yeah, so I would first start with this one is probably a lot harder at Disneyland just because there's not as much to do on property other than downtown Disney. And so you're pretty much, this tip is most helpful for Walt Disney World.
If I could briefly interject, though.
Yes.
One tip for if you have an off day in Disneyland is typically you're either going to have a rental car or bring your car because the transportation in Disneyland Resort is not to the caliber of what you would expect from Disney World.
Right.
So take your kids to Huntington Beach and go hang out like by the water, or take them to Hollywood to see the sign or the Griffith Observatory, or whatever. Like, there's a lot of fun things to see in Los
more
Angeles.
Sightseeing.
Yeah, so just go out and hang out at the beach for a while or something. Right. You can go to downtown Disney or something, but there's still a lot to do in that area that is very close by. So let's talk about Disney World, though, because I think that this is a little bit more of what we're thinking.
Yeah, so if we're staying on property and not spending money, we're doing free things. A couple of those things that we would suggest would be Disney Springs. That is a shopping, entertainment, restaurant hub. And so, sure, you could end up spending just as much money there as you would in the parks on food and souvenirs and all kinds of things. But walking around and taking in the entertainment and just kind of window shopping, you can spend some time doing that, breaking up your day, still abiding by your budget by planning out your meals or bringing your own snacks and things.
Yeah, I would be weary of Disney Springs, though, because that is like a money trap. It's like the Venus flytrap of shopping.
It is.
So be very careful.
So that's just one suggestion because there is a lot to see and do there. Now, the other ones are less likely for you to spend more money by staying on property. And one of those is resort hop.
Yeah, we love this one.
This we did when we went over the summer this year on our baby moon because we really had to break up this trip. It was hot and humid and I was very pregnant. So we needed to do things that were less strenuous where we could sit a decent amount. And so we just rode transportation from resort to parks just to get on another bus to go to a different resort. Just to go to Disney Springs, to get on a different bus to a different resort, to get on the Skyliner, to get on a boat. I mean, we had so much fun just resort hopping to see what the resorts were like, to check out some of the lobbies, to see some of the sites available at those resorts, like at Animal Kingdom Lodge. We went and looked at the animals.
Yeah.
There's just so much that each resort has to offer. And so I would highly encourage you to just see what is available at the different resorts because it also might open your eyes to a new resort that you didn't think about. So when we rode the Skyliner in July when we were on our baby moon, we rode over the Caribbean Beach Resort, and that's actually where we're planning on staying on our next trip. And so there's all kinds of things that we didn't know that it had to offer. We had never really seen the layout before. And so now that we've seen it, we were like, oh, let's check that one out next time. And so resort hopping, total win, total fun thing for you to kind of explore property.
Yeah, and there's a ton of things that are really fun to do at resorts. Like for instance, we talked about how we went to Animal Kingdom Lodge, and while we were there, one of the really fun things that we got to do was just we got to sit on these big, beautiful rocking chairs and just look at the. There's not a lot of animals. Like it's not going to be the same experience as you may find in Kilimanjaro Safari,
Right.
but we saw some giraffes. We saw some antelopes. I think we saw a few zebras and stuff.
We did. Yep.
So we got to see a lot of the animals, and that was really, really fun to do. Another thing that's really fun is, when you are resort hopping, especially with kids, definitely look for activities that are, going to be kid friendly. Mm-hmm. So there's some resorts where they have crafts, they have painting. There's some where they have like trivia, where you just kind of hang out and do trivia. But one of my favorites to mention is if you go to Fort Wilderness, and a lot of resorts have movie screenings, but they actually have a fire pit and a big screen outside where you can watch movies. And they also have a big sing-along with Chip and Dale there too, around the campfire. And for a very small price, I don't remember how much it costs, but it's very cheap. You can get little like s'mores kits, and you can roast s'mores around the campfire with Chip and Dale and then have a movie. So that's like a really fun way to kind of end a day without having to exhaust yourself in the parks, and it's very relaxing. Disney also, believe it or not, offers fishing for a very affordable price too. So you can actually take your kids fishing, and that is sort of a fun new experience that, maybe, if you don't get an opportunity to do that much, that's something you can do. So yeah, I mean, those are definitely things that are really fun. And then another option, I think, that if you're staying at your resort, just hang out at the pool. That's a really fun, free thing to do. You're already going to be there. And instead of hitting up a water park, just hang out at your pool and swim. I mean, kids can make up such fun games in the pool that that can be a complete day itself. And oftentimes, like for instance, at Coronado Springs, there's a really beautiful water slide that's so much fun to go down. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much fun thing. There's so many fun things to do there. And then the final thing that I would say about having an off day is to just hang out on the transportation. You mentioned that briefly, but
right.
Taking the buses kind of to and fro is fine, but you do a lot of that when you're at the parks. But take advantage of the monorail and just like ride it around and pop off at different resorts. And a really fun one to show your kids for sure is the Contemporary. That's a lot of fun. You can try to get upstairs, and get a good view of the castle and Magic Kingdom. And then also the boat rides are great too. Like it's unbelievable how you can just walk up anywhere you want and pop on a boat and just ride it. No questions asked.
Well, right. And you can go over to the boardwalk area. We didn't even mention that. There's more shops and restaurants there, and you can pop into the hotels over there. I mean, even like people who are staying at the Swan and Dolphin, which are technically on property, but they're not Disney quote unquote resorts. My parents love to stay there. That's where they stay. And there's even really nice pools there. So in terms of the swimming and the pools, the Coronado Springs, which we actually stayed at in July, they also had the bonfire night and the s'mores kit. So you could go up and just roast some marshmallows and right out by the pool. So there's so many things to do without having to go into the parks that will save you a ton of money. And like we said, you can just make a sandwich in your room and, go back up to the room and eat it and then come back down and swim for a while and get your kids to let out some energy in between park days.
Yeah, and then the final thing I'll mention about this that I forgot, but you sparked my memory when you said something about other resorts having the fire pits. There's also some resorts that have grills. So if you do have food delivered, you could do like kebabs one night and just grill them out on the patio, have some brewskis, have your kids have some sodas, and just hang out. That's so much fun. And sometimes, depending on where you're staying, you can also catch a fireworks show from your property, from where you're staying. So, tons to do in that regard. But I'm going to move over to number 4 of things to do to save money in Disney parks. And that is going to be a total opposite of staying off property.
Yeah, so this one, we have stayed off property a handful of times. We usually will stay off property every time we go to Disneyland, just because there's only, is it 3?
Yeah, there's
hotels?
three hotels.
And so we have found one that we really love in Disneyland, and that is, What is the name of that hotel?
I don't know. Maybe we should.
It looks like a castle.
Yeah, I don't remember the name of it.
It looks like a castle.
But we could put it in show notes.
We'll put it in the show notes. But it is sort of like a quick 5-minute drive. You have free transportation on a little shuttle, sort of like a van you would take from the airport to your hotel, basically. And so there's free transportation to the parks. And that's what I would say is when you're looking for a hotel that's off property, see if they do offer either for a small fee or for free transportation to the parks, because that is one big perk with staying on property is that free transportation everywhere. Did you find it?
Anaheim Majestic Garden Hotel.
That's it. The Anaheim Majestic Garden Hotel. And this looks like an old castle, feels like very princessy, reminiscent. You can see the fireworks from the hotel. We actually posted a picture on our story the other day on our Instagram page that we stayed there with our dog one time and took our dog to see the fireworks show, and she was traumatized by it. But we were able to catch the fireworks show from our hotel. So staying off property, I was able to find a really good deal. There's so many websites out there like booking.com or Hopper or Expedia where you can try to find really good deals on hotels instead of going directly through the hotel itself. And so utilize your resources with coupons. And if you have some sort of account, like we have a booking.com account, we use it all the time when we book hotels. So I often end up getting a coupon for 10, 15, 20% off. And so we're able to find really good deals where we can save big on the hotel, which gives us then more money in our budget to spend in the parks.
Yeah, my only the only thing that I would say about that, though, is whatever hotel you're staying in, just make sure that it does have transportation to where you want to go, because parking can be really expensive every day if you have to pay for that. So definitely look for resorts or hotels nearby that do offer transportation. Okay, number 5. The 5th way to save money on your Disney park vacation is to simply pack smart. This one for me is this one to me feels like a must, because I used to be really against carrying any kind of bag or having anything weighing me down. I wanted to carry as little as possible when I was out and about doing things, and I'm definitely still that way. But in the parks nowadays, I really do see the value of making sure that you are packing everything you need to go without weighing yourself down too much. Again, everything is about to change because we're going to be going with a baby and having a stroller and a diaper bag and just an immense amount of things that I never thought I would need in a park. But I'm just going to give a little bit of like a short little list of things that I would recommend bringing if you're not dealing with an infant, because it's just easier that way. So one of the first things that I always want to bring when I'm going to a park is my very own water bottle. You can fill up a water bottle pretty much anywhere in Disney, and sometimes you can take it up to a quick service place or somewhere where they have water or like fountains, and they'll fill it up for you. But listen, I fill mine up at a water fountain all the time.
A regular old water fountain.
But here's the thing too. Sometimes I'll go into the bathroom and just use the sink and fill it up that way. I know that sounds kind of gross, but water's water, so
anywhere there's free water, you're saving potentially $5 to $7 every time you fill it. If you're buying those big giant Dasani water bottles, it saves you a ton of money.
And when we went in July, which again was a mistake because of how hot it was, I think I filled up my water bottle probably 24 times during the entirety of the day, because we were just blasting through water and sharing that one bottle. So I would definitely recommend that. And if you have a larger family, bring multiple and kind of divvy them up between people who are packing bags. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I think is really important to have on your person is an extra poncho. Now in California, forget it, you don't need an extra poncho. But when you're in Florida, man, those hot thunderstorms are. They're the pits.
I knew exactly what you were going to say when you were about to say the pits.
Yeah. So Yeah, bring a poncho. I mean, I've been caught in the rain literally in Animal Kingdom and in the China Pavilion at Epcot.
Every time.
And it just sucks, man. Like, I don't want that.
You don't want to be soggy for the rest of your day. And it's inevitable that a thunderstorm is going to roll through sometime in the afternoon and then it'll probably disappear. But sometimes the parks will legitimately get inches of water in a couple hours and flood. And so the poncho trick, you can go on whatever website you like to shop from. You can go to the store and pick one up. You can find like a 5-pack of these online for like $10. One poncho in Disney World is going to run you from $10 to $12, depending on if it's kid or adult size. Whereas you can get a 5-pack online for $12. And so if you've got a family, buy a cheap pack of ponchos. If you want a cute one, you can find Minnie or Mickey themed ponchos online ahead of time and bring those with you. But if you're looking to save $1, go online and buy a pack of these. It's the same that you'd pay for just one poncho in the parks itself.
Another good thing to pack if you can is like a little fan.
That was a lifesaver for me in July.
So we ended up bringing one for you that we got at a baseball game, and I made you put a sticker on it because I didn't like the team that it was for. I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to make enemies. But there's also those little fans you can get online that go around your neck, and then they just kind of sit around your neck like early aughts Bluetooths, and they look silly, but they work.
They do.
So that's an option. Another thing we like to bring too is snacks. So and I'm not like necessarily endorsing any brand that I'm saying. Do your own research, but I personally like to bring Cliff Bars. I like to pack a couple of them and just toss them in a bag and have them on the ready. So if I'm really hungry and I'm like, oh man, that Mickey pretzel is going to be bomb right now, I can just have a Cliff Bar instead and feel better about myself and have saved money.
Right.
So snacks are great, even especially when you have little kids too, like, little party packs of Goldfish or whatever.
Or those little apple juice pouches or things. There's lots of different snacks that are portable and that aren't going to go bad from sitting in your bag for a few hours.
Also, bring a phone charger. Not
like a portable one.
Yeah, like a portable one that can maybe charge your phone up to 5 times or something. It's some people, they may have a newer phone that the battery lasts a lot longer. But if you are, holding court on your trip and kind of leading the way, or let's face it, if you have those terrible, terrible children who are on their phones all the time, you're going to blow through battery, even if you have a brand new phone that does hold a pretty good charge. So just make sure you have one of those, and then, that way you don't have to buy one at Disney and just get kind of ripped off by the price. The other thing that I would recommend that you bring too, especially if you have kids, is don't forget to bring your own autograph book and pen. Because while it's really, really fun to have, a Disney branded one, and listen, like no judgment from my end. If you want to go get a 2022 Disneyland or Disney World autograph book that has Mickey and pals on it, and get like, a pen that is themed as well, like, God bless you, go live your truth and get that. But if you are not as interested in having to buy those, especially if you have multiple kids, I would recommend, maybe bringing your own or finding something online that is like a little notebook that is Disney themed or something like that.
Right. You can always save a couple bucks, and those few dollars here and there really add up. One thing I wanted to add with the fan and the portable charger is they do have those portable charger kiosks in the parks. But I think they run you at about $30 to rent those things. So if you have one ahead of time, like Steven said, that can do up to 5 charges. If you're using your phone a lot in the park to check wait times or to navigate how to get to certain rides or to see what's going on in another park, if you have a park hopper and you're looking to switch over, or to get reservations for things. I mean, you could be potentially on your phone a lot during the day in the park. taking photos, linking up with Photopass. There's so many reasons you could be on it. You want to make sure that you have that phone charger just in case without having to pay the money to go to a kiosk or to run back to your hotel and to charge your phone for a little bit, because then time is money when you're coming to that point. And those fans, they also make the ones that clip onto strollers that sort of have like those bendy tripod kind of legs.
Right.
And so if you have little ones, you can get one of those fans ahead of time and attach that, because you can always just hold it on yourself too if you need to take a little break. So just some little thoughts about how to multi-purpose some items to help the whole family out. But just to save you a couple bucks ahead of time, because these are things you can use at home when you're going on a walk on a hot day, if you want that clip-on fan, or if you go to another theme park or to a baseball game or into the city for a day trip, you can use that portable charger again. So this is not stuff you're just spending for your Disney trip. These are things that you can use outside of that as well. And so you're doing yourself a favor in the future and only buying it one time.
Yeah. The final thing that I'll say about packing smart is I will give away our OPSEC about what we like to wear. Paige has recently, at one point, Paige was super anti-Loungefly. And then she got her hands on one, and now she has like 3 or 4. So
yeah, I cape. They're so cute.
Paige likes to have a Loungefly with her, which I'm just going to be honest is not the most functional bag to have when you're at the park because they're kind of small.
That is a personal opinion.
No. It's not a personal opinion. It's a fact. They're kind of small. I said I'm not really endorsing anything, but I'm not getting paid by Adidas. But if they want to pay me, they can. I carry with me the Adidas Alliance II. And it is such a great bag. It has, it's just like a sling bag, but it's heavier duty. It's got a front pocket that has my Droid Depot pin on the front of it, proudly. It has 2 little side pockets for water bottles, and then there's plenty of space in the pouch to carry stuff. So I'll link that in the show notes as well. So if you want to buy one, you can get it. But that's personally my favorite bag to have with me in the park. It's super lightweight, and I don't need to sing its praises too much, but it's a great bag.
Yeah, and I do like the Loungeflies. Some of the Loungeflies can hold your ears if you like to wear ears or buy them and carry them with you. So that is pretty functional, and it has the smaller pouch in the front on most of them, and then the bigger pouch on the inside, which I actually found holds pretty much everything I need. It held both of our ponchos. It held my water bottle, my ears, my wallet, our gift cards, everything that we carried. My fan was in there, and so it was very, very functional. But sometimes if we're going a little lighter, like if it's not going to be as hot and I don't need some of those things, or if there's no chance of rain, I'll just bring a fanny pack too, and that can really save, because then I'm not having to put my bag on and off when we get on rides. I'm just kind of leaving it. And everyone has their opinions about fanny packs. If you don't like fanny packs or you think they're outdated, whatever, they're functional. So
yeah,
I like them.
Having a smaller bag is kind of like the man who has the fewest keys on his ring. It's like the less you have, the lighter you pack, the happier you are. And
then you don't buy as much because you can't fit it in your bag.
So anyway, that's what we like to carry. I'm going to jump into number 6. The sixth thing that we recommend to save money at Disney is to use your own camera for photos, or your phone camera.
You can use your own camera. Sometimes you bring your camera in the park.
Sometimes, yeah. But what I mean to say is...
But the hack is use your own cell phone.
Yeah, right. What I mean to say is, you see all the people who are in line for Photopass sticking their hands out like crazy people, to hold something that isn't there, or, pointing at something in the air. You can still get in those lines even if you don't have Photopass, and you can have the cast member take a photo for you. They'll be gracious to do so. They will not give you any flack for not, using their system. They'll probably still take a picture of you with their fancy cameras. But in your heart that you're not going to spend the money, like $200+ to get the Photopass. So I don't really need to stick around on this one too much. It's pretty self-explanatory, right. But you can still get the photos, the fun ones, if you don't have Photopass. You're not gonna get, like Tinkerbell sitting in your hand, But if you still want to pose for that one and know a kid who's a whiz at Photoshop, maybe you could make it happen. So
the only thing I will add to this one is if you are here for your first time, if you're here for a big family get together, if you're here for a Run Disney event and you're going to be going to every park plus these special things, Photopass can be very worth it. And we've actually purchased Photopass several times. I purchased it with my friends when we all went with a group and we each pitched in for it. My parents have bought it before. Steven and I have gotten it twice on 2 different trips that we went. And so sometimes you get some really, really good Photopass pictures and you just build that into your budget. But most of the time you can get really good shots other ways, and on your phone you're going to get plenty of good shots. So just keep that in mind. Remember, it's all about what you want to prioritize. If you really want these good photos from your first trip or from your big family trip, go for the Photopass and save in other areas. But if you can pass on it, you've been to Disney several other times, then you can kind of save in this area and spend that money elsewhere.
Well said. Okay, number 7, the seventh way to save money in Disney parks is to simply eat smart or plan your dining well. So, obviously, I personally would not want to just pack a sandwich every time I go to a park. Like, I'm in Disney, and half the fun for me is getting to try all the good food. So if I'm just having like a turkey and cheddar, like that's going to bum me out a little bit and I'm going to wish I had lunch. So if you don't want to pack your lunches or go back to your resort to, eat what you brought or even have groceries delivered, you can still eat in the park and eat at different places relatively cheaply. So, for instance, there's a lot of QSR options where you can just walk up, get something pretty quick. If you don't really have a big appetite, you can share foods. You do not have to always flip for that nice sit-down restaurant experience. You can do quick service for dinner. You can do it for lunch. There's so many, you can snack for lunch and like go get different kinds of like pretzels and corn dogs and stuff, or God forbid a turkey leg if you feel so inclined. Yeah, you really you can still eat in the park and not bleed yourself dry financially, I think.
Well, yeah, and this, for some people, the food is the priority when they go to Disney. I know for
sure.
you that's a big thing. For me, depending on the time of year, depending on how long of a day we have, if it is summertime and we're in Walt Disney World and it is hot and humid, I don't need to eat a big lunch. I need to have enough nourishment and enough to drink that I'm staying hydrated and that I have enough energy to keep going. But I can't pig out for lunch and for dinner. So I would be fine to just have a Mickey pretzel for lunch and then have a little snack around 3:00 and then we sit down for a dinner, or we even just go to a QSR and sit outside at a table.
Yep.
In whatever park we're in. So you can really try to think through like what are your priorities. If you really care about the food, if that's your big thing, maybe you don't care as much about souvenirs or attractions and trying to get on as many things as possible, then this is where you're willing to spend a little bit more. But if you are trying to save money here and there, don't do a sit-down restaurant every day. Don't even do it any of the days. Maybe you sit down at a nice dining experience one night and that's your big spender night. And then the other nights you just grab QSR. The other good thing about QSR is you're not all having to eat the same thing.
Right.
Which sometimes Steven and I do not like the same types of foods, or we're not in the mood for the same types of foods. So, for example, when we go to Disneyland, I usually go to the Pacific Wharf Cafe, and Steven likes to go get some Mexican food for lunch. And so when you do QSR, you have the flexibility to do that instead of spending more money at one place that you might not both or all want to eat. If you're in a group, maybe your kids just want chicken tenders, then don't make them all pick from the same restaurant you're going to where you're going to spend more money. Just grab them chicken tenders from one place and you go get what you want from another place. And that could save you a couple bucks here and there.
Yeah. And then the only other thing too is if you do want to really, treat yourself one night and enjoy a bunch of good food, look for those family style all you care to enjoy restaurants, because that's really where you're going to get the bang for your buck on that. You do have to pay per head, so don't think you're going to sneak in, with 3 kids in a trench coat and not pay for very many people.
Right.
But it's still a really good deal. So, look for deals. Again, Paige is right. Kind of just figure out like what your priorities are and then go that direction. For me, again, like priority for me is totally food. Mm-hmm. So I'm willing to kind of make that work. But I'll totally dig into my souvenir gift card for snacks. Like that's no problem for me.
Right. And I usually end up using my snack gift card a little bit for souvenirs. So it works out. You just have to figure out what you want to spend your money on. We're not here to tell you how to spend your money or what to spend it on. We're just giving you some tips and advice on how we like to do it and how we save a couple bucks here and there.
The 8th way to save money in your Disney park vacation is to bring souvenirs ahead of time for your kids or for yourself. So what I mean by this is if little Johnny loves Mickey Mouse and they're just like so excited to get there and to have all their Mickey Mouse gear on, buy like a new shirt or a new sweatshirt or get, a brand new fun towel for the pool, you can totally find ways to hype up your kids for your trip, by getting, a couple of things that are going to be really exciting and fun, without having to, have them get this overwhelming shopper's anxiety in the world of Disney, pointing out every little thing they want that's going to cost, $30-$40 plus for like a t-shirt or a sweatshirt for a kid.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about the autograph book and the pen, all of those little things that can add up while you're in the parks. Try to do some of that heavy lifting on the front end. Even if you want branded Disney things, like it's so easy to walk through, like Steven said, the World of Disney or any of the stores on Main Street and be like, oh, I absolutely have to have that. Well, if you could bring something ahead of time, like a pin lanyard, if you're planning on buying pins, don't go and buy a lanyard from one of the stores to just display your pins and wear around. You can get a cheap lanyard at home. Or what I like to do is I bought a really cheap banner on Etsy that I have hanging up in my office at home, and I display all of my pins on there. And so when I'm in the park, I actually don't carry them all on a Disney lanyard. I carry them on the free lanyard I got from when we stayed in Disneyland a couple years ago. Yep. And so instead of paying for a new lanyard and displaying them all at home that way, I hang them on this cheap little banner that I got that was only like $5, I think. And then I use the free lanyard that I have. Or you can use, an old work lanyard that you have or from some conference you went to. Whatever you have to display your pins and carry them around in the park. All of that stuff ahead of time, if you bring what you have with you, you're not going to be so inclined to pay for that in the park.
Yeah, and that could be the same thing for, again, like getting your kids excited about going, getting them like maybe if you can find like a Disney branded suitcase or something at like a TJ Maxx or like a Marshalls or a Target or Walmart or whatever. Those are great ways, again, to kind of just like get your kids ready and excited without having to, bust up your arm and leg having to buy all this stuff when you get there. Same for like stuffed animals or whatever, they could have a little buddy on the plane and the car ride there and just be excited about it and, just kind of have something ahead of time. And, also, again, it will save you a little bit of money, but also, make sure your kids get something nice too. Like and if you can. get your kids something nice.
Well, and if your kid's going to get souvenirs at the park anyway, if you could tell them, oh, you already have that stuffed animal,
Right.
or you already have a Mickey Mouse t-shirt, why don't we try to look for something you don't have, like a pair of ears or something special? Then they're not going to be begging and asking for all of the same things because you already got them one or two special things leading up to your trip. And again, this is not for everybody. Not everyone can afford to buy souvenirs every time they go. So when you can, save a couple bucks and prioritize. If you've got kids, you're bringing them and you want to get them excited, you don't even have to buy them stuff.
Right.
You can just hype them up and tell them about all the fun things that they'll do, but kind of prepping them for what the experience is going to be like. If you can afford to get them one or two things that'll get them excited for their trip and make them feel like they're already decked out in Disney stuff going to Disney in the airport, they're going to feel really excited and special about that.
Yeah, the final note on that too is if you are, when you do get your kid something, which, like, let's face it, even if it's a small little souvenir, you're probably going to end up taking something home. Don't get it on the first day. Don't do that. Wait until like the next to last or the last day to get what you're looking for, because even if you have to go back to the world of Disney to find that one thing, you don't want to like get that one souvenir and then or whatever you're looking at, and then be like, oh, shoot, I really wanted this instead, but too bad, I spent my gift card, or, I got this or that.
Well, right.
Anyway, okay, the ninth way to save money in Disney parks is to pay a lot of attention to the busy season. So this can be anything from the park's capacity, how long wait times are going to be, how long you're going to, if you're going to be completely like waiting in these insane even security lines to even get into the park, or long, ride times. Because again, time is money in Disney. But also, look for resort deals and savings. A lot of times you'll get, deals where you can stay a certain amount of nights and get one night, for a discounted rate, or they just have certain specials going on. Similarly, this sounds a little counterintuitive, but the more days you spend in the park, the cheaper it becomes per day. It can still add up, of course, but think about it that way as well. And then also, another thing to think about that may be overlooked a little bit is, and again, this is really only applicable if you're flying to any Disney park, but also, be aware of flight, like busy peak times in flying, because if you decide you're going to take your kids for, if you're going to take your kids for Christmas, like, that's going to be really expensive for travel. So just be aware of busy seasons and, what it's going to cost to get there and how much time you're going to have to, spend once you're there to wait, and resort prices hiking up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and a couple tips. I know these are kind of common knowledge things, but not everyone might know them, is when you're flying, check for flights, a good bit of time ahead of your trip, at least 4 weeks or a month or something ahead of time. It's usually cheaper to fly on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Look for those early morning flights or the late in the evening flights, because those can be cheaper. And then I said it earlier, but time is money. So if you do plan on taking your family, or you and your spouse or your significant other are going around Christmas time or right after Christmas, you're going to be waiting in line forever in the parks, and it's going to be hard to get into restaurants. It's going to be really busy. So think about the quality of your trip, and how much time you're going to be spending waiting and being in crowds, in terms of how much is that experience worth. If you can find a time where it will be less crowded for you to go, if you can push your trip to the beginning of January, or if you can push your trip to right during spring break, when maybe your spring break falls later or earlier than most of the other spring breaks, depending on, your kid's school schedule and those kinds of things. So obviously when you're working around vacation times and school schedules for families, it's hard to just up and go to Disney World or Disneyland whenever you want. But if you have the flexibility to go on a time that would be a little less busy, see if you can try to save a decent amount of money by doing that, because resorts are usually cheaper. Traveling by plane is usually cheaper. Gas money's usually cheaper in the off season when it's not summer or peak times for travel. So supply and demand, just keep that in mind when you're traveling. It's not just about the wait times. It's also about all of the money it takes to travel to get there.
The 10th and final way to save money on your Disney park vacation is set your budget. Simple as that. Set a budget, know what you want to spend, and stick to it. So if you only want to do $50 per person on souvenirs, great. If you have more than $50 to spend per person on souvenirs, fantastic. Just know your budget and try to stick to it if you can. And if you are looking to save money, it's just, this is like a good lesson in life too. Just to kind of know what you have to spend, what you're willing to spend, and stick with it. Don't go into Disney blindly thinking that, it's going to be, it's just going to be like a free for all, of like whatever we want to do, we're going to do it. Because like we said in the beginning, just to sort of wrap it all up, that does come back to roost, especially when you are putting things, on your Magic Band connected to your debit card or whatever. I mean, it can get really expensive really fast. So if you are looking to keep things, tight and on your budget, then definitely know what you're going to spend before you go.
And I think the biggest thing is do your research ahead of time on some of the costs and budgeting items that you want to focus on. Hopefully this episode was able to help you think about some things that you might not have thought about doing ahead of time or planning for your trip. But most people end up, once hotels and travel and everything is said and done, it's usually at least $3,000 for a trip to Walt Disney World. So it is a big expense for a lot of people. And so just keep that in mind as you're planning. You can do a value resort. You can do a deluxe resort. You can go to 4 parks. You can go to 2 parks. Make the trip what you want it to be for your family and for your experience, and cut costs where you can to try to give yourself the opportunity to prioritize the things that matter to you, whether that's food or attractions or staying at a nice resort so that you can take some days off and go swimming for free. Save money on groceries, buy a couple things ahead of time, but really try to utilize some of these systems that we've recommended and put in place to help you save some money on your trip so you can make it an enjoyable experience and not have to worry about how much was on my credit card bill when I get home.
Yeah, because then you're going to end up like one of those dads walking around Disney saying like, broke or most expensive trip ever.
Yeah.
And I will never be that dad. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate everyone who listens, who has connected with us online, who's given us kind words about the show. Thank you so much. You can find us on Instagram at the Parks Academy. I think it's the Parks Academy Pod on Instagram. Is it?
No, it's just the Parks Academy.
It's just the Parks Academy, but you can find our website at theparksacademypod.com.
There you go.
If you feel so inclined, you can support the show on Patreon. You can find us there at the Parks Academy as well. We do bonus shows. We release shows early, and we also have a little community over there that we're excited about. And then finally, if you feel so inclined and are able to or want to, we would love it if you would kindly give us a good rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, wherever you're listening to this podcast. That would mean a whole lot. And, as they say on YouTube, it really helps out with the ratings and algorithm and whatnot. So, again, thank you so much. We appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you next week. We'll catch you next time.